So I think it's fair to say that wanting to be, like the best or wanting to be great is kind of like a natural human desire. I know for myself personally, I'm a very competitive person. And when you pair that with my love for sports, it can sometimes be a little bit of a dangerous combination, if you know what I mean. But there's just something about being on a field or being, on a court where you just get to let's see who's better, 1v1, mano a mano, let's see who's the best. And I admit that I do like to win. But that kind of goes beyond just, the sports world, in our common life. Who doesn't want to be the best employee, employee of the month? Or, I want to be the best student, I want to be number one in the class. Or maybe even, I want to be the most, well-liked person in this social group. We want to be the best. We want to be great. Which kind of reminds me, there's a priest back in Philly at the seminary. His favorite saying is, "God doesn't love second place," which always kind of makes me laugh because clearly it's not true, but it is kind of hammering home a certain point where, yeah, why would I want to be in second place if I have the opportunity to be in first? We want to be number one. We want to be the best. We want to be great. And so it's this idea of greatness that the disciples are kind of struggling with in today's gospel. Putting this episode in perspective, you have about a chapter or so before, Jesus was just transfigured on the mountain. And now he's going about teaching them, instructing them, hey, I'm going to suffer. I'm going to die. I'll rise again. And amidst all that, the conversation that they decide to have is, which one of us do you think's the best? Which one of us do you think's the greatest? Not the most appropriate question, to be asking at this time. But Jesus responds in a kind of surprising way. We would think that he'd want to give him a slap on the wrist and be like, stop that, be humble, stop worrying about trying to be great. But he doesn't. What does he say? He says that if you want to be first, you need to be the last of all, the servant of all. So he's not telling them not to want to be great. If anything, he tells them and us how to actually be great. But it's not greatness in the eyes of the world. It's greatness through the eyes of God. So the world would tell you, be number one. Have more money, fame, fortune, honor, prestige, whatever. And that's real greatness. Jesus, on the other hand, no. Be the last. Be the servant. And now, we've heard that a million times, so I think it's kind of, if we're honest, has lost its, impact on us a little bit. But try to imagine hearing that for the first time, like the disciples would have. Wait, Jesus, so you're saying that instead of trying to be the one being served, I should actually rather do the serving? Or instead of being first, I should be trying to be in second, third, or fourth? That doesn't make any sense. And they're right. It is kind of countercultural, both for their culture and for ours. But the funny thing, the crazy thing, is that it's actually true. That being servant really does make somebody greater. How does that work exactly? Well, Christ says at the end of this passage, whoever receives one of these little ones receives not only me, but the one who sent me. So when we serve, when we put ourselves last, when we're serving, God gives his very self to us. God is love, as St. Paul says. He literally pours out his love into us. Imagine, a cup that God just continually pours, himself into. Not to the point where it's just full, but to the point where it's overflowing, where it's touching everybody around us. And it's transforming not only our lives, but the lives of those that we love and care about. Because the things of the world, the power, the prestige, and the like, at best, that gives us, momentary satisfaction. But God, the outpouring of God's love for us, that endures, and that's satisfying all the time. And so the thing is, we can't just leave that in our head, though. It's like, okay, that's like nice theology, that's nice, God, but like we actually have to like put that into practice. And the beautiful thing is we have so many opportunities to do that. Even here at our own parish, we have community meals on Friday. What if on a Friday night where we would probably rather be doing something else, we sacrificed a Friday and helped out those who were less fortunate? That's putting ourselves last. That is being a servant. Or the youth groups collecting a bunch of canned goods for their event in a week or two. What if instead of going out to eat that week, we saved that money and used that to buy canned goods and to donate to them so that they can give it out to the community? That's putting ourselves last. That's being a servant. Or even just like on a spiritual level. What if we prayed for that person that kind of like drives us nuts, right? And we don't mean like one of those like sarcastic prayers where like, Lord, like please help, Aunt such and such because we know she really needs it. Not one of those, but like what if we actually like sacrificed for that person? What if we didn't drink that cup of coffee on Monday morning and offered that up? Can you imagine what that Monday would look like? Or what if we refused to hit the snooze button and offered that up for that person that, again, just kind of like gets under our skin? Like, that's putting ourselves last. That is being a servant. And like we know, like being a servant is not limited to just those three things. Like we can be very creative with them. But the common thread throughout all of it is that being a servant really does make us great. We look out in the world and we see these people who are just like completely giving of themselves for the sake of somebody else. Maybe it's in a big way, like in a Mother Teresa type way. Or maybe it's something as simple as a mother or father just like really sacrificing for their children. There's just something like magnetic, something very powerful, something great about that we don't see in the billionaire who keeps everything to themselves. So that's because that the things of the world, they just don't satisfy. We don't get to take them, when we die. Power, prestige, honor, all that stuff, it goes away as soon as we die. But the things of God, the love we have for Him and for each other, that is what endures. That's what goes on, in eternity. So don't be afraid to be a servant. Don't be afraid to put yourself last. Because when we do that, God pours Himself out to us, not just to the point where we're satisfied, to the point where we're just overflowing with His love for us and for others. So don't be afraid to be a servant, because when we do that and really receive God into our lives like that, there seriously is nothing greater.